Good afternoon. We welcome you, friends online watching us every Sunday or whatever time that you have where you are. We welcome you in our April 10 Sunday here in Jacksonville, Florida. We pray that God will bless you as you listen to His words, and also I welcome all our friends here in the auditorium. So thank you for coming out. So we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna continue in prophecy. Prophecy is a quarter, 25% or even more of the Bible, Old and New, is prophecy. So God loves prophecy, and the good thing is the fulfillment of prophecies is one of the indication that the Word of God is authentic, it is infallible, and it is true. Whatever it says it will happen, you bet that it will happen to the last detail. That's why a number of times Jesus Christ will tell His audience at that time, His disciples, that not one tittle or iota, those are the smallest character in the Greek alphabet, they said, will fall to the ground until the words that I've spoken to you will come to pass. Mangyayari, or it will have its fulfillment. So, the other I will read this. It's not in my note, but I just want to read this. In Revelation, the last book of the Bible, it's the book of Revelation. It says Revelation means it's unveiling. God is taking off the veil from our eyes so we can see what is going to happen in the end times. And so the Bible speaks a lot about the end times, and yet the generation that we are living in, we are that very last generation who are seeing almost all of the signs that Jesus Christ spoke of in Matthew 24, and Luke 21, and also I think in Mark chapter 13. Now in Revelation, this is the beginning of the statement of John, the beloved. Okay, the apostle who wrote the Gospel of John, the epistles, 1 John, 2 John, and 3 John, and then this is his fourth book. In Revelation chapter 1, verse 3, it says here, blessed is the one. Now the word blessed means happy to be ended. Blessed is the one who reads the words of this prophecy. So just reading the words of this prophecy, you are already blessed. Okay? In so many ways you are blessed. Because when you know what will happen in the future, and you are a born-again Christian, you're a Christian, if you know what's about to transpire in the future, then you will not panic, you will not be afraid, you will not be paralyzed with fear, but you will what? You will rejoice because of His coming is near, and then you will work harder in God's vineyard, to call more people, and then to prepare ourselves in that coming. So He said, Revelation 1:3 says, blessed is the one who reads the words of this prophecy, and blessed, he says, and blessed are those who hear it, or those who are listening, or those who are studying, those who hear it and take to heart what is written in it. Because the time is what? That time is near. So it's not only coming here and going out here, but whatever you hear, whatever you read, you take it to heart. Okay? It becomes your what? It becomes your life, it becomes your guide, it becomes your comfort to know that whatever happens in this world, and a lot of things are happening in this world, you know that God is the one in control. It's not anybody else. It is God who is in control of whatever is happening in the world. And in the part 2 of our lesson this afternoon, Russia part 2, which I brought you to Ezekiel 38 and 39, those two chapters in Ezekiel is one of the most debated part of the prophecies about the end times. It's not so easy to understand, but you have to go to the book of Daniel, book of Jeremiah, and of course you need the Holy Spirit to understand what is being detailed to us in Ezekiel. Though it is the most debated part of the scriptures regarding Israel, and those people who are going to invade Israel. And yet it is the most detailed. Those two chapters give us the most detailed information about what is to happen somewhere there in the Middle East and in part of Europe. And Russia has a big play to play in all of this that is happening. It's interesting if you read the Bible, it's just like reading the newspaper and at the same time finding almost everything matching up. You know, if the second coming or the end times is like a puzzle, you know, where you have different pieces that you put together to get the whole picture. Okay, we are on the last pieces of the puzzle. And if you are at home, we have we have different kind of puzzles where we put together all those tiny parts. Some of them are, we have 1,000 parts that you're gonna put together to see the big picture. Let's say the map of the world or a dinosaur or something like that. But if you are in the last pieces of the puzzle, okay, let's say you already got about 18 more pieces to put in 1,000 small pieces that you put together. You only got, let's say, a dozen more. You can always visualize what is the big picture, because you can always see all the images that are there, that are in place. And it's the same thing with prophecy. Okay, as we started this afternoon, we will see that almost all the pieces of the puzzle about what is to transpire in the end times, especially as mentioned in those 2 chapters, we can see that it is close. That the end of the world is close. The second coming of Jesus Christ is very close, and let's say it's just at the door. So we're going to look at these 2 chapters. I'm not going to go to all of the verses, but I'm just going to give you some of the important information about Russia. Okay, and it is not an accident that Russia now, of course, the invasion of Ukraine is on all the headline. Okay, they a lot of experts. When I said experts, military experts, those people in governments, they did not expect that it was gonna go this far. Okay, first, this guy here, Uncle Putin, Vladimir, he is the president of Russia. He used to be a KGB, like a CIA, the equivalent of CIA here in the U.S. Just to introduce you that this guy, Vladimir Putin, because the Bible mentions, this guy is ruthless. Okay, and if you are reading the news, watching the news, or you just eavesdropping from people talking about, you know that he has no disregard with any human being. Okay, just recently they fired on a train. I think in a train where a lot of people are evacuating, they fired, and I think 100 of people died. 10 hospitals. It says that in Russian children hospital. He didn't even care. He just went ahead and bombed all those hospitals. But this is Vladimir Putin. To give you I'm just going to give you a little information about him. He was a KGB earlier in his life. He was the director. That is like I said, it's like the CIA in the U.S. and then Mossad in Israel. That's their secret service or their intelligence bureau. But here it comes. But in 19, I think it's in 19. If you remember your news, okay, let me just go so I won't miss it. In 1991, he was he retired as a KGB official, and then during the time of Boris Yeltsin, okay, the former president of Russia, when he in 1999, when Boris Yeltsin was taken out of being the president, Vladimir Putin took over. He became the president and then the prime minister, and then he was re-elected in 2012 as the president of Russia. Now, this guy here has a very big ambition. That's the main reason why he invaded Ukraine, because he wants to bring back the old USSR, the Soviet bloc, which fell, okay, they changed their name, I think, during the time of Reagan, in 1991. So his aim the old Soviet bloc, the old Soviet Union bloc, the countries like now Belarus, they own now. Ukraine used to be a part of this old Soviet socialist republic. But in 1991, they become autonomous. They become a separate nation from USSR, and then there's a lot more, which I will show you later in the map. And that's what he wants to put back together, all those nations that were under the old Soviet Union before it collapsed in 1991 during the time of Ronald Reagan. And he is a very ambitious guy. In fact, a lot of people are asking, is he the Antichrist that is mentioned in the New Testament and in the book of Revelation? I can say, I will agree with a lot of Bible scholars, I can say, in the light of what the Bible is saying, no. You know why? Because when the real Antichrist comes, okay, Antichrist means against Christ, okay, or contrary to Jesus Christ. When that person comes, the whole world will love him. As of now, Vladimir is being hated almost by the whole world. Okay, all of the sanctions that are being implemented against Russia is because of him. They don't like him, and eventually when all the Russians in Russia finds out the failure of that invasion in Ukraine and what he is doing in their country, okay, they're gonna hate him. So, but what I am thinking is, there will be a person who will come that is almost like him, but is worse than him. Can you imagine worse than him? Worse than him. So I will take you now to Ezekiel 38, verse 1 to 6. And this is a prophecy that God, you can see many times you will see if you read those two chapters, the word of the Lord came to me, meaning Ezekiel. And most of the time Ezekiel is called the Son of Man, meaning that is a human receiving word of prophecy from a God who is divine, and from God who is all-powerful and all-knowing. Now let us go there now. Are you there? Okay. Now the word of the Lord came to me. Ezekiel is the one talking, saying, Son of man, that is how God addressed him. Set your face against Gog. Now you see, God said against Gog. Now the word against, it's contrary. I'm angry at him. Gog is not a place. Gog is a person. Okay, or some people say it's a title. It can mean a czar, a pharaoh, a king, or a president. That's what Gog means. So it's a person. And he says, set your face against Gog of the land of Magog. I will show that to you. The prince of Rosh, that's where Russia came from. That name Rosh. Okay, now back then, during the ancient times, if they want to change a word, especially a name of a place, they can just change the vowel, but the consonant stays. The vowel there is O, A-E-I-O-U. Okay? Now, you can change that to you, it's still a vowel, and then it will become Rush. Okay? And that's where we get the name Russia. Son of man, set your face against Gog of the land of Magog, the prince of Rosh, or the leader of Russia. Okay? Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. In the first session I told you, these people, Meshech and Tubal, you can find them in Genesis chapter 10. Okay? When finally the ark of Noah rested in Mount Ararat in Turkey, okay, all his children and their children's children, they populated that known place in the world, not so far from where that ark rested on the Mount Ararat in Turkey. So those are the names of the descendants of Noah, and prophesy against him. So it's not a very good prophecy, it's against him. Who is the him? The prince of Rosh, the prince of Russia. And say, thus says the Lord God, behold, I am against you. So God is very adamant. He said, I am against you. You know why? Because these people hate God, and they hate God's people, Israel. Okay? Now, oh God, the prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal. Look at verse 4. I will turn you around. So that means that God is the one instigating this guy, this leader of Rosh or Russia, to what? To make war with Israel. And that's the word there. I will turn you around, put hooks in your jaws, and bring you out with your whole army your horses, your horsemen fully armed, and a great horde with large and small shields, all of them brandishing their swords. And then he named the confederations of other nations around Israel that will join Russia. And he says, Persia. You know Persia now is what? Is Iran or Iran. Okay? It was only in 1935 that Iran took that name. Instead of Persia, they assumed the name Iran. And then in 1979, during the Ayatollah Khomeini, the Shah of Iran, they changed it again to Islamic Republic of Iran. Okay? But this used to be Persia. They are not Arabs, they are Persians. And you can read that so many times in the Old Testament. And then it says, Persia, Cush, and Put will be with them. All with shields and helmets. Also Gomer. They say that Gomer is part of Germany with all its troops, and Bet to Garma from the far north. Look at the direction is very important. From the far north with all its troops, the many nations with you. So in all, there are about 10 nations, including Russia, who will come together and march towards Israel to invade the land of Israel. Okay, it is important to note, I don't know if you can see it much. Can you see it? Yeah, can you see it a little bit? So, in Ezekiel chapter 5, verse 5, I mentioned this to you last time, that Israel of Jerusalem is in the midst, is in the center of the world. Now, if you're going to have a flat map, you can see that that's where it is. It is a very tiny nation. So every time a prophet, a Jewish prophet, okay, every time they mention direction, north, south, west, and east, that is in reference to the location of Israel. So when it says in the far north, okay, in the far north, so that means north of Israel. That is Israel, a very tiny nation just the size of New Jersey. And when you go directly north, that will be Rosh, part of that is Magog, and all of those are huge land that is owned by Russia. And I think right here is Ukraine. Okay, so it says north of Russia, and then there is a part of Germany, and that is Libya, and then Ethiopia, which is now Sudan, and then there is Persia, which is Iran, and then there is Turkey, the modern Turkey, which is also a part of that other two places. Now it's interesting that all of these nations, okay, like Sudan. Sudan is an Islamic nation, and they don't like Israel. Okay, they don't like Israel, and you can also see that Russia is having a lot of agreement with Iran. Okay, Iran is the nation who said that they're going to wipe out Israel from the map. Okay, these are all anti-Semitic. They're all against the Jewish people. Okay, and so they are having an agreement, and Russia is what? They are helping Iran to what? To manufacture or to produce or to develop their nuclear armaments. And where are they going to use that? Once they have a nuclear weapon, they're going to use that here to target us, US, and to target Israel. And all of these countries that is being mentioned there, Libya, Sudan, all of those hate Israel. They don't like Israel. That's why it will be easier for Russia to get their approval to invade Israel. I put it there mostly in a place where you can see the modern map. So that is the Cush is Sudan, Put is Libya, and the other Islamic nations of Algeria and Morocco, and then Iran. And this is the place that departed from the old Soviet Union, and most people call it the Stan nation. As of now, I believe that these nations here are now part of NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which one of the reasons Putin is saying he doesn't want Ukraine to join NATO, because if that happens, then they can have all the support from all the NATO countries to fight against Russia. Okay? So the homeland of ancient Scythians, the word Scythians These are the ancient names for Russians. These are the people who inhabits those in the earlier days, just few years after Noah get out of the ark, and they're starting to repopulate the earth. So Scythians is inhabited today by the former Soviet republics of Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, in Ukraine, and probably you can include here Afghanistan and Pakistan. Okay, and these are the countries that Putin wants to get back to be a part of the old Soviet Republic. Okay, and I believe this invasion of Ukraine, though they have a lot of reason. Ukraine is the breadbasket of Eastern Europe. Abibinia and Daniel were there, and when they came back from Ukraine, they brought a lot of kinds of this honey, because they grow a lot of sunflower, and they grow a lot of what they call this plants and flowers that they can produce honey from. But anyway, it's a breadbasket. It is an agricultural country, and it's big. And then also, they just found out that Ukraine has a lot of natural gas and oil deposits that is not yet discovered, that is not yet tapped or being used for energy and for a lot of uses for oil. So it's a very rich country as far as its agriculture is concerned, and also its oil minerals. But this is it. That's the reasons. And then look at this. I got this from the news in March, just a month after the invasion. It says there, the Ukrainians are listening. Russia's military radios are getting owned. Russia's encrypted military phones aren't working, so they resorted to stealing phones from Ukrainians. So it's kind of interesting if you're reading the news that the Russian armies, they are very much demoralized. That's why they're what? They resort in killing civilians, like in Buka. One city, they almost killed all the civilians. They tortured them first. They raped the women, and women and children are being tortured and then killed before they deserted the place, because they are getting demoralized. Because the initial plan, before they invaded Ukraine, it will only take them less than a week, because they're more powerful, they got more tanks, more airplanes, more navy, and all of those things that they think that they're going to invade Ukraine in just probably less than a week. And now it's dragging to its second month. And a lot of cities and a lot of places that they were able to invade, now the Ukrainians are reclaiming them back. Okay? With the help, of course, of us, the US, and some of these NATO countries. So, he is failing. Uncle Putin is failing. Okay? In fact, a lot of the generals are being shot right there in the warfield, because they are not what? They are not as organized as the US military. In fact, most of this, you know how many people invaded the initial invasion in February? There are about 150 to 190,000 Russians who invaded Ukraine. So that's almost 250,000. Okay, and then like I said, they are failing because they are not prepared. They are not prepared for the long haul. They don't have enough fuel, they don't have enough food, they don't have enough training, and most of their soldiers are not commissioned soldiers. They are just contractual. Okay, and they don't even know. Some of them, they don't even know that they are going to Ukraine for a war or to an invasion. So that's why it's not yet happening. So when I was reading this and studying this, I'm thinking that this is just a dress rehearsal. Okay, when finally Russia gonna come back and improve their military, improve their protocol, improve their communication, improve their strategies, and that's when all those nations that is mentioned there in chapter 1 to 6 will join them to what? Not to invade Ukraine anymore, but to go up or to go down, up and down, east and west, from all sides. They're gonna invade the tiny nation of Israel, and we can see that it is now possible. It is not possible, back then this is, it will not happen again. That a big country, a powerful country, like Russia, will invade a smaller and weak country like Ukraine. But it is happening right before our eyes. Okay? So it's just probably when he comes back, it may not be Putin anymore. It may be somebody who's going to replace Putin, who is more smarter, who's got more military brain than him, but is probably more cruel than Vladimir himself. So, the reason why will Russia and all of these countries will attack Israel? What is the reason? It is given to us in Ezekiel 38:11-16. The first reason is in verse 11 and 12. The Russian will seize the land. Okay? You know, because like I said, the land of Israel is a blessed land. And we can see the blessing of God that He has done in that nation. He also mentioned in chapter 38 that I will bless you with the blessings that you have never seen before. And we are seeing that in our lifetime. Okay? Israel is third, economically speaking, in the whole world. They said there are 155 billionaires in Russia alone and hundreds more millionaires in Israel. They have one of the biggest per capita income in the whole world, bigger than Japan and bigger than Britain and Germany combined. So one of the reasons is they will seize the land because they know there is so much there in that land, in Israel. Okay? And the number two, the purpose will be to steal Israel's wealth. Okay? Even now, you can see that, right? Most of the soldiers, the Russian soldiers, what they're doing, they are looting. Nagnanakaw. They are looting stores and groceries and department stores in those cities that they have what? That they have invaded, especially in the eastern part of Ukraine. Can you imagine that? That's the one of the atrocities other than killing innocent people. So the third reason, the great army will seek to slaughter Israel's people, and that's it. They're going to slaughter. That's why they're bringing a lot of this army. The Bible describes them. It will be like a cloud. There are so many. The soldiers and armies are so many that it looks like a cloud hovering over the tiny nation of Israel. So that is why they're going to invade that country. And then another is hatred. They hate Israel for some reason. Even here in the U.S., it's sad to say. A lot of people here in the U.S., they hate the Jewish people. Okay? And they call it, that's the term that they call the anti-Semitic. Okay, they hate Israel. Because the Bible, God already prophesied, the whole world will hate you, not because you are good looking and you are so handsome, but they're going to hate you because of me, the Lord, your God. Okay? And then, you can also see, I think it's in Exodus, and this is the promise of God. I'm getting ahead of myself. The first promise of God to Abraham. Remember Abraham? In Genesis chapter 13 and then down to, I think, 19. God told Abraham, you will be the father of no nation. You will be so blessed that I will bless all nations of the world through you. And that is so true. And that is so true, but I will not go into that on how Israel, a tiny nation, has become a blessing. America will not be America without the Jewish influence, without the Jewish people. You go back to the history of America. George Washington, you know that $1 thing? In God we trust. George Washington put that thing there, in God we trust. In what? In gratitude because of that guy, the name Haman Solomon, who financed the Civil War during the time of Solomon. So they won. They won the Civil War. And in gratitude, he says, I will honor your God. And I will put that in God we trust. That's the God of the Jewish people. Also in that $1 bill, you can see the menorah. The menorah is the candlestick or the candlelight that you can find in the synagogues of the Jews. Okay, and then you can also find the eagle and the 13 branches of the olive, which is the symbol of Israel, all in that $1 bill. Okay, and then if you go to Philadelphia, I'm just telling you, this is blessed, not because there are a lot of smart people here in America. This is blessed because the Bible tells us that God told Abraham, I will bless all the nations that will bless you. You see? And America ever since has been blessing the Jewish people. When they were fleeing from Adolf Hitler in World War II, okay, thousands and thousands of them are fleeing and escaping for their lives. although almost 7 million were killed by Hitler in Germany and in Europe, some of them flee here in the United States, and America gave them an open hand. And since then, you can see how we are blessed because of the Jewish people in so many ways. In so many ways. So that's why they hate them. But God said, I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those who cursed you. Look at what happened now in Germany. They used to be the number one in the world during back that time. Germany is now, apart from Mercedes-Benz and BMW, that's it. Okay? Germany is not as powerful as it was few decades back. You know why? Because of what they did to the Jewish people. And you can see, even in that country there in the Middle East, you can see Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt, and Syria, all of them trying to invade Israel. Look at what kind of people that they have. Look at what kind of lives that they have. Israel is continually prospering, but a lot of them are getting poorer and poorer in spite of their claim that they have a lot of oil. Okay, and that's the reason I said that, because Israel is God's people. Although not all of them are born again, are believers in Jesus Christ, and yet God promised them that I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those who curse you. And we will see as I end what God will do to Russia himself. Okay. Now the next thing, where will the invasion occur? So, like I said, it's very detailed. It has been given to us in Ezekiel. After many days, you will be visited in the latter years, talking about not during the time of Ezekiel, in the latter years, sometimes in the future. Okay, way back, way down in the future, it says, in the latter years, you will come into the land of those who brought back from the sword and gathered from many people on the mountains of Israel, which had long been desolate. They were brought out of the nations, and now all of them dwell safely. This was just fulfilled in 1948, in May 14, 1948. For more than 2,000 years, Israel doesn't have a nation. They were scattered in many parts of the world. Okay? But in May 14, 1948, for one of the greatest miracles of God, fulfilling Ezekiel chapter 36, 2 chapters before 38, that God will bring them back from many nations, and they're going to be in a country that they can call Israel. It has never happened to any nation. It's scattered for more than 2,000 years, and then finally come back and recognize again as a nation. So that is one of the requirements for Russia to invade. You cannot invade Israel if there's no people there. So, but now there is a nation there. There's the people of the Jewish people live there now. So now they have a reason to invade that country. And I highlighted on the mountains of Israel. You know, it was only recently in the 6-day war. I think it happens in around 1960s. Okay, when they're just starting as a nation, the 6-day war. That is the mountains of Israel does not belong to Israel. It belongs to Jordan. That country that's beside them. And during the 6-day war, they won because they're the one invading. When a country is invading a country and you defeat them, part of that land becomes yours. It becomes your real property. So can you imagine during this prophecy, there is no such thing as the mountains being owned by Israel. But during the 6-day war, that happens I think 67 or 69, 1969, those mountains become the property of Israel. And it says, which had long been desolate. No, they were out. They said that not even weeds or only weeds grow in Israel when they are not in their country. Only weeds. But now they can grow anything that you can think of. Then it says, which had long been desolate, they were brought out of the nations. From different nations in Europe and Asia, they came back to the nation of Israel. And then people ask, a full-blooded Jew, and you ask them, especially here in the U.S., there's still a lot of them. Okay? Are you going back to your country, Israel? They said, I think it's in our DNA. You know those Canadian ducks? I think you know them, right? Those big ones? Geese. Okay? When they migrate, they don't have any GPS. They just know exactly when to go, to where they're going to go, and when to go back, when they're going to go back. They don't need a GPS. There is something in them, built in those birds, that they know when to fly back and when to return. And the only problem is you guys, you are feeding them. That's why they don't want to leave Jacksonville. They stayed in Jacksonville because they are feeding them. Okay? But anyway, it's the Jewish people, they said that it's in their DNA that they're going to go back to their country. In fact, the Golan Heights and the places there in Palestine, they are building houses there for millions and thousands of Israelis who going to come back. To be in Israel, especially in these days that are coming. It's interesting. Ethiopian Jews, Russian Jews, Hungarian Jews, Polish Jews, you name it. And the people here in America, they want to go back to their own country. So this is where the battle is going to take place, or the invasion of Russia together with the other nations. And then the question is the timeline. This is the hard part when you go to a prophecy. When will that happen? Okay, and it's a good thing that although Ezekiel did not give us a very detailed time when it happened, it gives us some references of information about when will the invasion of Russia and all of those countries that will go with him, when will the invasion occur. It is mentioned in Ezekiel 38 verse 11. You will say, I will invade, still referring to the Prince of Rus, that leader of Russia, who will be instigating, who will be leading this group of countries to invade Russia. Look at what it says. You will say, I will invade a land of unwalled villages. I will attack a peaceful and unsuspecting people, all of them living without walls and without gates and bars. So the first three, there are three reasons why they're going to invade. In fact, there are four. The three reasons that they want to what? They want to steal the wealth of the Israeli people. You know the number one export of Israel? Diamonds. Okay, diamonds. And then a lot of these countries, they're going to steal from them, and then they got a lot of other good things there in Israel. Then they're going to kill them. But look at this says here. I will attack a peaceful and unsuspecting people, all of them living without walls and without gates and bars. So this is not happening yet. Because right now, Israel is still a lot of enemies. They said that every day coming from the Gaza Strait, okay, the Gaza Strait, okay, the Palestinians are what? Are still firing missiles to Israel. They said about 24 a day. And so Israel is not yet safe. All of the nations around him, the Hezbollah on the north, Iran on the far east, and Sudan on the south, they're trying to invade, and they're trying to what? To disrupt life in Israel. Okay? So they are not yet a peaceful people. But look at it says, I will attack a peaceful and unsuspecting people, all of them living without walls. Because there is a come a time that Israel will break down its walls because he will believe that everything is now peaceful. We don't have any more enemies. We don't have any more people, okay, trying to invade us, trying to kill us, trying to fire missiles against us. So without walls and without gates and bars, there is a time coming. And I'm pretty sure that time when that time comes, we are no longer here. We are already been raptured by the time that it comes. You know why Israel finally will have a peace? Because when that Antichrist comes, it's mentioned in Daniel 9:27. For 7 years, the 7-year tribulation, okay, that's another topic in prophecy. And it is soon coming. And that's when the Antichrist will reveal himself. 7 years as prophesied from Daniel 7 to Daniel chapter 12. In that 7 years, the three and a half years, that Antichrist will show that he's a good person. That he can solve all the wars in the world, he can solve the economy in the world, and all the problems in the world. That's why the people will admire him and worship him and believe that this is it. This is the Messiah who can solve all the problems of the world. And he will station himself there in Israel. Okay, so the Israeli people, for the first time, they will have what? They will have peace with most of these Arab nations and Islamic nations. Have you heard in the news just 2 months ago? For the first time in so many decades, Israel has an agreement with the United Arab Emirates that they can fly an El Al and the plane, the commercial airplane can fly back and forth to Tel Aviv. They haven't done that before, but now they have an agreement that is already what? We have a peace. Okay? And so and soon, when the Antichrist comes, he will say, okay, why are we quarreling here? Let's have peace. Okay? And that's when Israel will lay down all his arms. Okay? Right now, Israel is still one of the most powerful military in the world. Okay? That's why all the nations around them, they don't mess up, they don't mess with Israel because they know the capabilities of Israel as far as weapons of war and brain in strategies, in war strategies as concerned. They're very good at that. So this prophecy here is not yet fulfilled. It will be fulfilled when the Antichrist came and Israel will permanently say, it is peace. Let's break down the walls. Let's live together with all of these people. And when that time comes, that will be the time that Russia and all of these people will invade. So we do not know, as of now, we do not know how many years or decades that will take. But if you are following what is happening in the world and what is being said in the Bible, you can see that anything can happen in just a week or two, and it will happen like the pandemic. Who will know that we're going to have a pandemic that will affect all the nations of the world and will kill millions? And it's not yet over. My Auntie Pelosi has it. Some of you, who is she? She's my auntie. No, she likes ice cream. Expensive ice cream. But anyway, we are not yet done with the pandemic. Okay? And you can see, but the Bible tells us that in the last days, there will be what? Pestilences. Plural. So that's why we are being what? We are being programmed now about different variants. Okay? Different variants of same virus. What if there are other variants like a bird flu, another of those, the bubonic plague, and all of this come together at one time? You can read that in Revelation chapter 6. It will kill more than 2 billion people at one time. But anyway, there's that thing with the Antichrist, so that they will later, it's not happening yet. And when that thing happens, we're no longer here. Okay? And that's the time that this Russia thing will invade Israel. In 1 Thessalonians 5:3, look at that. When they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction will come. So, like I said, when they have a treaty with the Antichrist, okay, let's not have no war anymore. Okay? So let's be peace with one another. Then that's the time that there will be this great calamity happening to them. Are you still there?
Yes.
Russia's utter destruction, and it has been prophesied. In Tagalog, ang lubos na pagkalipol ng Ruso o Russia. Yun ang Tagalog ng Russia. It's either Ruso or Russia. Russia's utter destruction is being mentioned first. Look at this. God Himself will fight this great army that will invade Israel. It is so great that Israel cannot say, we're going to fight them back with our weapons. No. The enemy is so great and so powerful that Israel cannot do anything. It is God who will fight for them. In fact, God is